Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tutorials of Tone. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for watching this video. What you just heard was a snippet using the Bruno Mars preset in the FM3. You can of course use this on the Axe FX3 or FM9. This is a great use of a multi-band compressor mixing with a clean amp sound like you'd hear with a Nile Rodgers sort of thing, Prince, the 80s and 70s funk classics. This is a great way to pay homage to Bruno, as he uses this approach very often in his recording techniques. We're going to dive into just how to do that and a few little idiosyncrasies with an extra preset. Let's dive in. First up, we have our input block. Everything is at stock settings except the threshold of our gate is at negative 47.5 dB. That's where I like having it for my Morse Music Man guitars. I'm on a position 4 sound throughout, but you can of course use different tones if you'd like a neck humbucker. If you're playing a song like Treasure and doing the live version, you still have that option, but for that popping clean tone, position 4 is a great thing on your Strat or Super Strat. We then split the signal into our multi-band compressor line, our straight into the desk tone, and our amp sort of clean tone. So first up, our multi-band compressor. Really stock settings throughout. We use the 10 milliseconds on attack and 100 milliseconds on the release of each band throughout. Our ratio is a simple 2:1, and our threshold is at negative 30 dB throughout each of these channels. Our crossover frequencies are 200 Hz and 800 Hz respectively. And then we use this as an active 3-band EQ. So our lows are turned down to 0 dB, 2 dB for the mids, and the stock setting of 6 dB for the highs. Because we are blending this with our amp signal, we take the level down to negative 7.5 dB, and that setting by itself sounds like this. A nice flat even tone, and you could see those meters pulling back when we go a little bit over in those frequency ranges. Next up, we have our clean amp sound. We have a Studio FF compressor running in front of it. Everything is pretty stock here. The release time is at 63.25 milliseconds. No auto makeup gain, but we are using 6.5 dB of level to make up for the compressed signal. We then are using our amp as a 59 Bass Guy Bright. This is a 59 Bassman, really neutral settings here, just trying to give a nice standard clean tone. Our input EQ has a 100 Hz low cut in the amp block. We then move into our cab, which is a pair of 4x12 Bass Guy IRs using a 57 and a 121 equally. In our preamp tab, we have a 100 Hz low cut and a 10K high cut. That by itself sounds like this. Now, as you may have noticed, the bypass mode of my amp and multi-band compressor blocks were set to mute. This is so if you don't want to have that combination tone, you have the option between just the multi-band compressor, just the amp, or of course you can combine them. If you are combining them, it is important to have this graphic EQ where the points converge. It's a really simple thing, but without it, we get this sort of boxy tone. So here it is with, then I will bypass the graphic EQ, and you can hear what it was like before we've attenuated that. Now, as you can hear, the graphic EQ is vital to have when these 2 points converge, because there's a little bit of a buildup in the low mids and the mids. So I've taken down quite a bit of 500. We have negative 7.5. and we have -5 at 250. Just scooping that area out really keeps it from sounding too boxy. I had messed around with things like trying to take the multiband compressor and adding a little bit of a short delay, thinking that the amp and cab were out of phase. I tried different time alignment things to try to minimize this. I was getting nowhere. This solution, for now, is where I've landed. This is a work in progress, and of course, any improvements made will be reflected in the editor's notes in the description and also in the matching presets that are available. It should be noted that because we're scooping all of these low mids and mids, we have a 4 dB level on our graphic EQ. Rather important when you're cutting level to add overall level back in. All of that signal runs to a medium plate reverb, which is running in parallel. We have that at -20 dB, just a little bit of extra breath when you're doing board recordings and things. And then we have a filter block at the end of our chain, should you need a lead boost. This is attached to an expression pedal. It will give you a 3 dB boost. Very handy should any of your single note lines need to pop out. In our output blocks, note that the scene levels are a little bit different. So when we switch to our multiband compressor only sound, we have a 5 dB boost. And when we switch to our amp only sound, we have a 2 dB boost. This is really important when you combine signals to attenuate the individual components, or when you have your combination to dip those, as I've done in other presets. Now, this is great for position 4, but there are certain songs that don't use that. So here's a nice exception. And here we have the preset for Uptown Funk. This is a really great alternative to using the Bruno Mars preset, which is attenuated to a position 4 tone. This is for a bridge humbucker. So in the amp block, you can see certain moves being taken to just take things back a little bit. The bright switch is turned off on our amp, and the high cut is set to 8500 Hertz. Everything else on either line, spatial effects, filter block, is identical. The only real difference we have here is this octave divider that's set before the signal splits. We have a lot of octave down and a little bit of 2 octaves down. That can help us sort of embolden that intro line with the bass player and maybe the keyboard player. When we're on our bridge pickup playing those really high harmonies, it's important to have that brittleness taken back. And there we have it. Again, you have the options of switching between your multiband compressor and your amp signals. Notice that because we are on our bridge humbucker, the levels are a little bit different between our multiband compressor only and our amp only signals. But our scene 1 level, which is the combination, is set to unity. Well, that about does it for these Bruno Mars presets. I hope these are helpful to you on your next wedding, dance, or pop gig. If you liked this video, there are plenty more videos throughout the channel between Fractal 101, tutorials of tone, gear reviews, playthroughs, etc. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.